Are
Oh.
y'all friends getting jelly?
So Hannah, can you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Hannah Gumbo, and I'm an artist, illustrator, muralist from Louisiana, the Cajun prairies of Louisiana. And me and my husband are here doing an artist residency in our Oliver trailer at Camp
Yes,
Wander
it's
Winter.
right behind there. That's awesome. So how did you find me and kind of why did you decide to do a residency? Tell me a
So
little bit
we,
about more about like your normal life
right.
and what precipitated this.
Yeah, so I call myself a freelance artist. So basically, I am self-sustaining. So all I do is different art projects, but is definitely a crazy variety. So I'm always balancing personal projects, client projects, illustrations, murals, items for my online shop, and so this kind of was an opportunity to step away from a little bit of the craziness of the hustle, and just focus on getting back to my roots, which is doing some sketchbook work, enjoying nature and drawing, sort of just to draw and seeing what comes from that, without the pressure of having to bounce so much back between emails and stuff in the middle of my week. So
Yeah.
we've been here 2 weeks and we've experienced all kinds of weather.
Yeah.
And of course, all the animals that you see behind me and the beautiful flowers. We're here in spring, in April, um, March, and now we're in April. And so it's just been a nice time to stop a little bit. It's things move a little bit slower here, so I think that helps kind of find its way into your work, no matter what, um, and just enjoying the process of making things again.
Awesome. So, had you been thinking about this type of idea of like either a residency or going slow for a while? Or did it kind of come about when you were working on the picking up the trailer?
So I have last year I did a quick little residency, just basically a weekend. Um, and so I've always been kind of curious about it. There's always a part of me that misses being in community with other creative
Mm-hmm.
people. Um, Even outside of COVID, I live and work from a really tiny apartment in a really tiny town. And so even though I'm bouncing between projects, there's like a level of just feeling there's a lot of solitude in it, I guess, but and there's not really the ability to share in the process of working on things. And so for me, a residency was yeah, seeing how being in a different place and a different pace would influence my work, but also just getting to know other people, um, and seeing what other creative people are up to. So when we knew we were going to have to drive out to Tennessee anyway, I started looking at Tennessee residencies and seeing if it was something that we could possibly do when we got our camper. So it really worked
Yeah,
out great.
awesome. So, what's your background? Where'd you study, and what did you study?
So from the near the place in Louisiana where I live, so I've always lived in that place. But travel's been very important to me. So I was raised most of my childhood. We were homeschooled, so that was great because it allowed me just to.
You grew up
Yes, so
homeschooled.
homeschooled for most of my childhood. So making art was just kind of an extension of living. I'd never had an art class. We'd go to the library and get books, but I just loved to make things. And um, yeah, so when I went into high school, my first art class, I went to public school as a sophomore in high school. And so I got actually into this amazing art program. And for the first time, it allowed me to bring discipline into my art focus. So it wasn't so much, oh, I'm inspired. Let me, only work when I feel like it. But
Mm-hmm.
the idea of having deadlines and kind of pushing yourself to try ideas that maybe you hadn't thought of before. And so that kind of went into my time at university. So I have a BFA in visual art, so mainly painting, but I also did a lot of printmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I really enjoyed my experience in high school working alongside other people and really having focus to my artwork. And I felt like in the summers when I'd go home, I wasn't really able to keep that up. And so that was really my only thought to continuing studying art in college. And
Yeah.
I remember one of my classmates was like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? We're never going to be able to make money off of this." And I was like, was that the point? Like, I've literally never thought that that was what I wanted to do. And so,
Right.
anyways, I graduated and we moved to a smaller town, Eunice. And really, I just was wanting so badly to keep up the practice of making art and to see where it led me. Um, and so over time, I started taking commissions, or somebody would contact me about like an event poster. And so that's kind of where the design started to creep in. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And so I would definitely did not think I would be where I'm at right now, but
Yeah.
I love it. And it's fun seeing my work slowly over time go more digital and then back to,
Yeah,
painting
we'll look
bamboo
at
and
these in a
stringing it
minute.
on this random board.
Yeah, we'll look at that in a minute. That's awesome.
And again, like connecting it all, because I think most of my childhood was traveling, getting inspiration,
Yeah.
just kind of being outside making stuff. And so kind of combining the academic side to what I just did naturally is kind of where I'm at now, and trying to find a way to make money off of things, but also have a balance of not going so hard on the side of just making money that I look up and realize I didn't really even want to be making what I'm making. So
Yeah.
always trying to check in, which I think taking this residency time is part of that. Checking in, is this still what I want to do? Is this still successful? Is this where I want to be headed?
Yeah, nice. So do you think that this came at a good time in that process, in that kind of career path that you've found yourself on? Do you think that this has been like a really good break? Because I know that you told me that with the trailer, you guys are thinking about actually going on the road more and being more like remote workers and being able to can figure out a different type of lifestyle. So you kind of establish yourself, you have a following, you have clients, you have all that kind of stuff, and this kind of transition period of this newer lifestyle that you have. Do you think that this, now that you've been here 2 weeks, do you think that that kind of time period that you had between kind of schooling and getting all that set up and now was a good amount of time?
Yeah, I think it's, divine timing. It's perfect. Yeah, I think it's tough. Part of it, there's another artist resident here, Brent. So I was talking to him the other day, and he was like, "You're in the 1%. There's so few people that actually, try to sustain themselves with making art." And so, and people do that in so many different ways. And I think there's just no roadmap. And so, with any kind of creative career or freelancing, a lot of times I relate to people not even in the arts that are doing like massage therapy, or I don't know, these just kind of interesting career paths that there's no one necessarily that you're following. You're not really sure. There's definitely other people doing things that you're interested in, but it's never going to look completely the same way. So I think it's knowing what's successful, but also what's a good fit for you. And to do that, you kind of have to know yourself and check in. This past year was slower than ever, but it almost created more of a restlessness in me, because it felt like if I don't really focus hard on what I want to be doing, this could potentially just not be a thing anymore. So,
Yeah.
but you can't really live in that state of panic.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that if you do, then it starts to take its toll on what you create. And so, yeah, it's a tough thing, but I think it's so wrapped up in who each creative person is. And so just trying to find that health and that balance, even though it kind of feels impossible sometimes, is like a good goal to have, because it's gonna lend itself to just better work overall.
Yeah, nice. So you've been here 2 weeks. What do you think now that you've almost ready to go home tomorrow? How was this 2 weeks for you? And then we'll look at some of the things that you made. Donkeys are
It was
going a little
wonderful.
crazy.
I have like the chorus. I have a little bit of like a restless spirit when it comes to going places. I love to travel and I'm like, oh, I just get so excited and so inspired. And so, even though I've only lived in Louisiana, I've traveled extensively and I love doing all that. And so part of getting the camper was don't necessarily feel like I've been able to make work. I've definitely kept like a travel journal and stuff, but it's almost like I'm so excited that it's hard to focus and translate that into like responding to the experiences I've had. And so the camper is like this steady, reliable, it doesn't change. And so, yeah, we've been able to experience that. It's definitely great because I can pick up my tools where I left off, and 2 weeks almost wasn't enough. Like, I
Yeah.
could definitely have stayed longer, which is not even really like me. But I think that just speaks to the calming nature of the property, and just I don't know, the way that you can kind of get your bearings and spend time in nature and then feel real refueled to go back to the work. There's a lot of little spaces for that, a lot of little walks. And so that's great for us because I think a lot of the places we'll be parking this will be like a campground with just a spot. And this felt much more open floor plan.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And just seeing, nature's always changing. So seeing how the rain affected the river and seeing what the donkeys are up to, and like where the cats are going, and did the chickens lay some eggs? It's got its own natural little rhythm that I think was really nice to kind of just coordinate and be a part of for a while.
Nice. So let's see some of the things that you made that you're willing to share. You have your whole little setup. I love that you're working this scale is really fun.
Yeah, so just
we'll
go
do
through
the
some
ones
of these
in the sun because I think we can see it a little better. Yeah, wow, yep. Oh, fun. Okay.
So I did some acrylics, some Posca paints, and just kind of had fun with it. I would typically paint in the afternoons and then come back in the mornings.
Nice.
Yeah. This, let me see if I could find it. This was kind of a sketch that I wanted to explore a little bit more, and I felt like it was like a little too tight on this one. So I went ahead and did it again, and I think if I was at home, I would be doing this more digitally, but just kind of accepting the limits of the color palettes that I have and all those things, like, the paper ends here. I can't change that like I can in a file.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to get back to that and not really have an option.
Yeah.
In some ways.
Yeah.
I loved being on the property and finding all these weird worms. I did a lot of worm paintings.
Worms. Yeah, that is great. And that's part of the residency is like a component of it is like a little bit of volunteer work, and there's nothing like set in stone, and it just so happened that I needed particular help moving dirt, moving manure, and that's why you started interacting with earthworms, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you were working a good few hours a day, but you also had some nice breaks to go sit in nature and explore a little bit and drive to the thrift used store, baggage, whatever store. That one's nice. Is that Alphabet?
It's not, but it kind of looks like it, huh?
Yeah. Looks like it started.
Yeah, it can.
Alphabet.
That's funny.
That's funny.
There's another one under here. Yeah, and reading books.
Reading books, yeah. And we had some campfires and social time, which has been nice. Great.
And then we have...
This is fun.
Yeah, this guy, which towards the end...
experimental.
Again, I was moving manure, but Brent was doing a lot with bamboo and cutting bamboo down to make a path, and so I really wanted to utilize that somehow. So
yeah,
I made these sort of frames on this just scrap wood. And so
that's fun.
Yeah, and I was like,
and you had this string.
Yeah, should I bring this string? Yeah. And then I have the final.
Yeah, so let's look at that.
This side is so bright.
That's good. That's
So
great.
yeah, the same idea. Kind of
That's
stringing
so
this
fun.
along.
Glitter.
Mm-hmm.
Pepper.
I painted this out where the donkeys were, which I
Yeah.
thought would be a good idea, and it sort of was, but they were trying to eat the bamboo off of the. They liked it a little too much.
That's funny.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's just even that, even like, hey, this is what I made, and then coming out and
Yeah.
showing you guys, and like letting it bask in the sun, and it's
Yeah.
just a very different feeling than being, you know, stuck in my apartment and like, oh, I'll take a picture and post it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I really am a kind of interested in going down the path of accessible artwork and art. How does art become our everyday? I think because I never took, you know, read fancy art books or took art classes for most of my life.
Yeah.
That's been a.
So this was basically, you had set up the residency, we were talking, and I kind of was like, hey, maybe you could do a shirt.
Right.
And then that kind of conversation. So you did the initial concept before you came here, and then worked on this the other day, now that you've been here a few weeks. And after you met Pepper and all of them. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's great. Hold on. Let's see if I can zoom in on it. Yeah. I see it now. Yep. So this was the t-shirt that is available, and then I loved your idea of making a bigger piece, and that's such a lovely, generous, fun thing to leave behind. Yeah, that's great.
Yay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what's next for you? What do you think?
Okay, what could it be? And I was gonna do more of like this kind of a thing. I was like, I'm just not that into it. So then I switched to what it is now. So just kind of exploring in that way, just like, what could this be? I'll make this a bit better.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like pulled some of the elements in. But just again, I think I'm like going towards this patterning thing. I just feel the need to repeat.
So you're finding that you're sketching ideas and then and then going to bed and sleeping on it, and then the next day kind of like it refines itself a little bit more every time. Yeah, tiki time. It's fun.
Yeah, and I like so having different like inspiration points of like, I'm just gonna draw, but then also going into things with just a paintbrush and not drawing, and how different that looks, and just you know, figuring out your line as you go, versus a pen mark, you can't take it back, you're stuck with it, so you work around it. So I think all those things are just fun. So yeah, I have the some of our donkey friends.
Oh, that's great.
And our little coffee, eggs.
That's great.
Just different little moments.
Yeah.
These
Love
fun
it.
worms.
Love it. Love it.
Bamboo.
Yeah,
Dandelions.
that's great.
Camper.
That's great.
And this was kind of looking at some of the books that I had grabbed from your space, and just kind of like jotting down some of the little concepts that I saw. I liked how just the way that they would create that pattern.
You grabbed quite a bit of the books in the library.
Yep.
That's nice.
I'm trying to find another one. But yeah, a lot of it is just playing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't make time for play.
Play, exactly.
And good, I mean, you can really cool things can come out of it, and things that are practical, but also you're not putting that
the pressure on
it.
This is the earthworms. Yeah, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just found I kept drawing them.
Are you dreaming about earthworms too?
I think I just like the idea of they're moving lines, and they create these crazy little wiggly shapes.
Yeah, they are wiggles.
And then
it's funny.
This was kind of the first one that I did. These like picturing them, because of course they're kind of like colorless in the ground, but just like picturing them as like these colorful little things.
That's great.
Wiggling through the earth.
Love it. what's next for you?
Always the question.
Yeah.
I would definitely like to do more, traveling and making art and finding a way to do that. I think the original plan, I do a lot of pop-up shops.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of connecting with art walks and art galleries along the path of where we're traveling was the original plan. I don't know that events will necessarily be back to the degree that,
Yeah.
I was thinking. But I think just looking for and finding people that are doing comparable things that are taking non-art spaces and injecting creativity and art is kind of where I want to lean in. And so just continuing that path of figuring out where we can go next, and then
Nice.
heading back with a lot of inspiration. And
Awesome.
gotta be missing my donkeys.
I know, right? And then you'll eventually maybe, you said that the interior of your trailer, because it's fiberglass, you're like, it's a whiteboard.
I know,
So,
I did look it up, and apparently it can mess your stuff up.
oh,
So
okay.
it's a whiteboard temporarily, but it could stain it.
Oh, okay.
I definitely want to design something and do like probably a vinyl wrap.
Uh-huh.
I think that would be really fun.
Yeah.
And I typically too, like, I haven't done a residency before, but every summer I usually take a few weeks off and just like do a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so anytime I'm away from drawing digitally or doing digital stuff for like a while, it's like I get this revived energy when I go back. So I think even some of the sketches that I showed, I'm interested in like transforming those into like surface design, probably for fabric or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not bad to be stuck up in my apartment behind my computer
Yeah.
with, my cats on my lap. I think there's beauty to both, but I think for me, just trying to find a balance where one doesn't feel like too much.
Yeah.
So going back and forth, and then, my husband works remotely as a web developer, so we just talked about it, and, we have the freedom to kind of do it, so why not?
Yeah. And each place and each time will give you new inspiration.
Right.
Like the earthworm thing, I think is really fascinating. I want to talk to you about that after we're done, because I had some ideas, and interacting with y'all over the past, you've been here a couple of weeks, and Brent's been here a couple of months, and other people have been in and out, and it's like talking to you guys, and then my brain starts going, and in the middle of the night I'm like, oh, I got this like ideas, So I feel like that kind of, we get so much in our rut and our like daily routine, that when you break it up and you can get out of your normal space into a place like this, where there is like, you start to ease in. I had a friend who called it like a bath, like it felt like more like a bath, just easing into a different pace, but then also having your own routine. So I would see you working at different times of day, and then taking a break, not being a workaholic and working till midnight, every day. You don't need to do that. Sit outside and watch the sunset and have a campfire and enjoy the time. I think it makes us appreciate that too, we can only be on for so much, and that the off time is important and special, and influences how you can create things. And
well, I remember, it's like terrible to not know where this quote came from, because I think about it all the time, but there's this woman that talked about her life is going to be the most important art project she ever does. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, being in school and like finally learning about art and being all excited, only to find most people had a very depressing life, where their work wasn't appreciated, or they drove themselves to madness over trying to bring their work to a place that they never got to see in their lifetime. I think that that's not the future I want, and I think that my artwork impacts me as a person and changes me as a person, and then I go on to make more work that influenced other people. I think life is not super black and white. And so even building a campfire, being a part of the art that you do, shoveling, manure and finding earthworms and letting that inspire you and be part of the work that you do. I think that that's more realistic, and blurring the lines between what is life, what is art, what is inspiration, what is like just our daily, what we have to do, and it's not always like magical and awesome and wonderful. Um, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it's the little things, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So even right now, we're like not. Me and my husband's throats are sore. We've been like kind of cold in the camper because the weather changing, and then you just told me about these beautiful little flowers, and I just went pick
yeah,
flowers for tea, and you know, it's a little bit out of necessity because my throat hurts, but it's beautiful, and the provision of what is just available to us.
yeah.
So
Well, I
yeah,
think your work really is joyful, and we were talking about that book last week. So, um, the fact that you're able to kind of keep that joyousness
yeah,
and sharing that with people, and I think it's really important. Um, Other people might criticize that, right? But
yeah,
in that mode that you were talking about of like being the like tortured artist or
mm-hmm.
whatever, but why can't we have joy, right?
Yeah,
And you were telling me about the house in Texas where the guy wasn't an artist and he was cutting up the tin
yeah,
cans and stuff. You don't have to be a trained artist to be a creative person, right?
right,
And you can utilize materials in a way that inspire you. But in that case, I imagine that him being slow and sitting in a place and kind of having the time for his brain to process, I've got all this material
mm-hmm.
here. Oh, I could reuse it, upcycle it in some way, and all of a sudden this like amazing art project comes about. And have you seen that? I think it's in Greece where it's an old lady that's like painted murals on everybody's houses in the whole village, like
Mm,
out of dots or something. It's
yeah,
really amazing, right? So, brightening up and colorful spaces, I think, is like a really fine thing,
yeah,
pursuit, right? That's an amazing thing. Not everyone can do it. And being able to be so, because I think when I was teaching, especially teaching design, students are so paranoid about being perfect
all right,
and like creating a perfect shape or creating something that's perfect. But in actuality, it's like the looseness and the human quality in creating something that's imperfect is actually nicer
right,
than like a digital form. So that's why I thought your earthworm created on the digital thing was interesting because it still has that like looseness to it.
right,
It's not a computer generated kind of piece.
yeah,
um, so I think being in nature kind of helps you realize that forms are, like the inherent quality of different shapes and stuff. Like
mm-hmm.
we were looking at the different shapes of the flowers today,
Yeah,
and in the moment it's really about the flower, but who knows, in like a couple of weeks, like you'll do something and maybe the shapes or the colors or something will
right.
come out into it.
I think too, it's like having that idea of it being a lifelong pursuit creates sustainability. Like if you approach every day here on the farm of like, if I don't get it done now, it's the end of the world. It's like you sort of have to prioritize and you
Yeah,
have to make peace with, oh my gosh, it's beautiful outside. Let me stop and enjoy this moment because it might be raining tomorrow.
yeah,
Um, and I think that that's very different than how a lot of people approach art or are taught to approach art, especially with projects and just the give it your all, stay up late, go 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 go, because you only have this limited time frame. And
mm-hmm.
there's a lot of lessons that can be learned with that, and I did. It was great, but only for a short period of time because life isn't really like that.
Yeah,
Even within work or whatever, if you have deadlines, it's like always has to be followed by like a break. Your
yeah,
brain has to like breathe, and so I think you know that the example of the house or this woman painting things, it's like they didn't need to be perfect, but they also let themselves learn as they went, and it was years and decades and a really long time, and they weren't trying to achieve some kind of completion. It was just like, let's see what I get done today. I found 20 cans, so I guess it's a 20 can kind of day.
yeah, exactly.
So I
Yeah.
think I
That's a
think part
good that's a good that's a good quote.
yeah,
What kind of day is it? Yeah, you're right, and it's like if the stars are out or something like that, like, you know what, I think I'll stop and do this instead, right?
mm-hmm,
I think learning the value of why we're here,
yeah,
right? And that, working for a living and as an invention, it's a construct. Is that really I mean, so how do we balance that, like needing to survive in today's society and
mm-hmm,
that type of exchange, right? And then also the being a human
yeah,
and experiencing life.
yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
think too, being here, there's value to there being extra hands, extra help, and not a lot of artists like let that marinate in the fact that their artwork is a value. There's value to it. There's value to what they do, and so there's a lot of opportunities they take on that feel kind of yucky, that make you feel like your work wasn't valuable at all, or and so kind of breaking away from those systems, I feel like I can only apply to so many things.
Yeah.
Before you do start feeling like
Rejection. Yeah.
love me. This is what I'm doing.
This is the most cars we've seen in a while. Is it because it's a holiday today? Maybe that's what it is.
Busy time.
Yeah.
So I think taking time for yourself to realize the value of it for your own life, like, why do I make art? What does it do for me?
Yeah.
And not always viewing it as like this burden or this thing you have to get done, or anytime it weighs too heavily like that for too long, then I don't feel like it's going anywhere good.
Yeah.
So trying to go back to like the roots of, if I could do anything, what would it be? How do I bring joy into sending 20 emails today?
Yeah.
How do I find a way to connect with nature in a way that I slow down? That, I mean, we talked about little things while we're here, even with Brent, about like chewing your food slowly and not like eating it all quickly. And yeah, so I think being here has been a good hi.
Buttercup.
Valentine.
Where is Valentine? He's underneath.
He must be
Should we introduce
Yeah.
Valentine? Oh, uh-oh.
You're caught up. That's
Are you caught?
Come see.
What's going on?
You
Uh-oh.
want to be in our video? You gotta come this way. Good job. One more. Oh, I see what the problem is. There you go.
Come here, buddy. Come say hi. Oh.
Who's that?
Hey, mister.
Valentine.
Joyful. He's so sweet. Well, it's been really fantastic getting to know you, Hannah. I love it. I've just had so many great conversations about books and movies and life and all sorts of things. So I hope you come back soon.
Yes, I would love that.
Awesome.
2 weeks wasn't enough.
Right? Exactly. All right. Thank you. Bye.
You want to ride in the truck with me?
Aw, what a good snickerdoodle buddy.
He's so sweet. How small are they when they're born? Are they still
Medium-sized dog.
okay?
Yeah, like
They grow
30,
pretty quick.
like 30 pounds, 34. Yeah.
Or Jordan, you want this one?
Yeah, that's cool.
How you want it? Lightly toasted?
Uh,
Flaming?
kind of in the middle of lightly toasted and flaming.
It's like, I'm trying to not cook some nachos right now. I'm just gonna stand out here.
It was.
Bye, Buttercup.
Bye, Buttercup.